Okay, we're rolling. Do you need levels? Okay. Claudia Broom-Smith, CEO of Townsville Enterprise. We are here today leading the delegation from North Queensland to keep our copper in North Queensland. This is a really important time for us when we know that 17,000 workers are at risk losing their job in the copper industry in North Queensland. I'm here with the delegation, but hosted by the Honourable Bob Katter, and we have a big day meeting with industry, but also meeting with the government to ensure that we are getting our message across that the copper smelter in Mount Isa and the copper refinery in Townsville is being saved in the next couple of weeks. We don't have a lot of time. It's 5 minutes to midnight, and we need a deal between the government and the state government as well as Glencore right now.
Robbie?
Okay. We're here down in Canberra pleading for help, and the cavalry hasn't arrived yet from Mount Isa Mines and the copper smelter, and it's a very critical part of infrastructure in Australia, one of our most prominent industrial facilities. I think most Australians have an aspiration that we would increase our value add in the minerals industry, that we wouldn't become a quarry, that we would process our minerals and increase on that. This is about just saving what we've got. So when governments come in and say we need to increase our manufacturing and our jobs, this is about saving what we've got, not even increasing it. And we're down here at the end of the day to back these workers that have jobs out there in the mining industry, and there's 17,000 of those at risk. Towns and cities really facing peril if we don't save this, because that mine has been the spine of the northwestern Townsville, North Queensland industry for 100 years now, and it will continue to do that for the next 100 years. They say over $700 billion worth of metals in the ground, but it'll just lay there unless you've got the facilities in place. The copper smelter is one of those. We're here today to save that.
Yeah, thanks for coming out, folks. Andrew Wilcox, Federal Member for Dawson and Shadow Assistant Minister for Manufacturing and Sovereign Capability. I stand here today proud to support Team North Queensland on the Keep Our Copper campaign. This is very, very important. We've been told that the copper smelter in Mount Isa is potentially going to go into care and maintenance without some government help. This can simply not happen. There's 17,000 jobs at risk. There's 17,000 emerging mines and junior mines that also rely on that copper smelter to smelt their goods. Now, for me, in my electorate of Dawson, in the northern part, I've got the Townsville Copper Refinery. So if we haven't got the copper smelter in Mount Isa, we're going to lose the Townsville Copper Refinery as well. And copper is so important to our sovereign capability within Australia for electronic goods, for electrification, and for defence. If we vacate this space, this will allow countries like China to move straight in. Now already, the manufacturing industry within China is being supported by their government. So what I'm calling for is for Glencore, our state government and federal government to come to the table. It's 5 minutes to midnight. Come to the table before this smelter goes into care and maintenance. Have the discussion, work out what we're going to do. It's critically important. If we lose the 17,000 jobs, and we're joined by some outstanding men and women behind us who work in this industry, we lose our workers, we lose our families, and most importantly, we lose our communities. We simply can't do that. We need to do more in Australia. We need to make sure we smelt, we need to make sure we refine, and we need to make sure we build things.
Yep. Please.
Peter?
No, I'd like one of the workers, Peter, and then you, if you don't mind,
Peter?
please.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Please, one of the workers, please. Yeah.
G'day, Cameron Gibson, Glencore employee at the copper smelter. This is pretty close to my heart. My dad was a 33-year member at the Mount Isa Mines operation. I've been there just over 32 years myself now. This is not about a company, it's not about politics. This is about saving a community. It's about saving rural and remote Australia. If we let the interior of Australia die, You guys down in Canberra, you guys down on the seaboards, you're not going to have what you've got now. The royalties that the governments get out of places like Mount Isa and mines like Mount Isa, that will stop. That will create a cash flow problem for the governments on all levels. We need to work together. Like everyone's saying, it's 5 minutes to midnight. It's probably 3 minutes to midnight. We need to get on this now. We need help from state. We need help from federal. We've got our local support here. We need help, guys. Thank you.
Peter,
Peter.
could you
Thank you.
introduce yourself?
Mayor Peter McRae, Mount Isa. I'm standing here on a very significant day for our town. This week, our underground copper mine is closing after a 100-year history. That is costing our community 1,200 plus jobs, and that is devastating in itself. To hear that our smelter could potentially be going into care and maintenance along with the refinery in Townsville would put our economic ecosystem into a death spiral. Because without our smelter, there's no sulfuric acid for the phosphate, and without that phosphate and fertiliser, you will not have the agricultural industry in Queensland and the nation that we have today. It will affect our ability to produce food. It will also affect the rail line, the port, and our Tier 2 and 3 miners. It is no overestimation to say that this will cost 17,000 jobs, direct and indirect, and put Townsville at an unemployment rate of 18%, which is simply unacceptable. It is said in the future, the countries that control energy, critical minerals and copper that can help decarbonise are going to be the countries that control the narrative. Do we want to continue to rip and ship our resources, send them offshore to be processed and value added, and then buy them back? If we want a future made in Australia, it needs to start in the Northwest Minerals Province, and it needs to start in our communities. I refuse to let my community die, so I'm going to be here with these lovely people fighting with everything that we've got.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Raymond?
No, I think we have enough.
Raymond Jayer, Mayor of Hinchinbrook, and we're here offering our support to the Mayor of Mount Isa and to all our politicians here fighting for it. Mount Isa has been a very much stalwart of North Queensland, and a loss of 17,000 jobs across Mount Isa and Townsville is significant. But for us, the significance also is the loss of the sulfuric acid that the smelter will produce. Ingham, where I come from, we're an agricultural community. We are phosphate deficient in soils. We grow 5 million tonne a year. We will not grow those 5 million tonne if we don't have access to that phosphate. Yes, phosphate can be brought in from the rest of the world, but why are we losing another industry? Bringing phosphate in from other parts of the world just increases the cost. And as Mayor Peter said, you know, we grow the food, so we definitely need to support, and we definitely need that smelter to continue so that we can continue growing food.
I just want to make sure that everyone knows clearly what is going on here. There are two or three entirely separate issues. There is a fertiliser plant that is closing down. Now, I want to say that's been on the market for 3.5 years. It's been running a loss for about 10 years. It's not going to continue. So it's doomed, absolutely, the fertiliser plant. Now, quite separately from that is the copper stream. Now, it's the biggest copper province on earth. $700 billion worth of copper in the ground up there, 13 mines that should be operating, but if the smelter closes, they can't operate. No smelter, you can't afford to get the stuff to the coast, 1,000 kilometres. So there are two entirely separate issues, and unless the government comes in with reserved resource policy, it is very simple. Western Australia has a reserve resource policy. They are building a giant fertiliser plant. On the East Coast, no reserved resource policy for any of the state governments or the federal government. So we're closing the fertiliser plant down. And we will, as Raymond Jayo just said, we will be importing fertiliser. So, I have seldom seen a situation, if you look up on your computer, the three biggest industrial centres in Australia. Number one is in New South Wales, Newcastle. Number two is Gladstone. Number three is Mount Isa. The third biggest industrial centre in Australia is about to vanish without trace. Now, the government, federal and state, has known about this now for a number of weeks. and there is still no commitment by government on the reserve resource policy, a little pittance of money to get the mining company through, but the mining company doesn't have a very pleasant record. So there should be no money going, and Robbie Katter has said this again and again, no money goes to the mining company unless they give half ownership of the smelter to an authority set up by government. Now, in actual fact, up until very recent years, the government owned a hell of a lot of those processing plants. It's an essential service. It is not a money-making machine. It is an essential service. It creates 13 copper mines to operate and great income for Australia. And now, we've gone now for a number of weeks and there's been nothing coming from government. Now, I've got to be fair and say, Prime Minister said that they may have to have a look at reserve resource policy on gas on the East Coast. But outside of that, nothing, nothing. Now, if you want to continue like that, well, we North Queenslanders have an enviable record in completely destroying politicians who treat us like this. So if you think that's a threat, I absolutely promise you that that is a threat.